Foreclosure update. That's what we're going to cover in this monthly market report. This is for you if you are a real estate agent, a financial advisor, or an attorney interested in market data to help you advise a client, or perhaps you are that potential buyer or seller looking for some direction. I'm Paulo Rodriguez. I've been a mortgage professional since 2005, and here is the market data that you need to make an informed buying or selling decision, or help your client do the same. Mortgage rates are trending downward. As I'm recording this, rates are at just over 6% as of last week, and we've seen them trickle up a little bit to 6.2 or 6.3. But no doubt we're in this downward trending environment where the average mortgage rate peaked around the first half of November. And so for the last 90 days, we've seen almost this full percentage point drop in rate. And I think as we see more good information about inflation as we go throughout the rest of the year, we're going to see this downward trend continue. Most importantly, I think we can say this confidently that the peak in rates appears to be behind us. Certainly last year, as rates started to rise, it's slammed the brakes on a lot of our business, but consumers are beginning to understand the new normal. And if something is priced right in this market, it's going to sell quickly. And I'm also hearing of multiple offer situations making a comeback. Now, I don't think we're heading back into the COVID buying frenzy, but I do think that consumers are adjusting to the fact that interest rates are what they are. This graphic probably does the best job of explaining it. As we think about the 30-year fixed rate, 7 to 7.5 is going to bring weak buyer demand, and we certainly saw that during the summer. 6.5 to 7% limited buyer demand, 6 to 6.5% we're getting into good buyer demand, and if we break through the threshold to get into the high fives, then we'll see strong buyer demand come back into the market. This is exactly the reason why the best time to buy is now. When rates drop further, there will once again be more competition between buyers. The biggest issue, however, is the fact that new listings are now below previous years, as you can see depicted by this red line, which shows new listings coming to market in 2022. Unless you watch this report every month, you perhaps thought we would end up with excess inventory last year. There were many people calling for a crash. In actuality, here's what happened. New listings started to fall, and we brought new listings to market at a slower rate than the previous 5 years. And we know that's what's kept upward pressure on prices. There's no market across the country in which I have spoken with realtors that say we have plenty of listings, we have plenty of homes for the number of people that want to buy them. There is no excess inventory. Yes, transaction volume has slowed, but listings is what we need more of as we go into the spring market. And builders, by and large, are not building enough. They've pulled back a little bit. To drive the point home, if we look at this comparison of the last 7 Januaries, January 2023 brought to the market the fewest listings. The primary drivers of this are, of course, new buyers that are spooked by high interest rates, and then, of course, sellers that would sell and buy another property, but choose not to do so because they don't want to double their interest rate as a consequence of moving. Now, all of these statistics I've touched on thus far are important because of what I'm going to touch on next. Take a look at a recent survey from NerdWallet, which says 67% of Americans say a housing market crash is imminent in the next 3 years. That is 2 out of every 3 people think that a housing crash is coming. But why do people think that? It's because there's so much confusion as a result of headlines like these. US foreclosure filings surged 115% in 2022. US foreclosure activity doubles annually, but still below pre-pandemic levels. Foreclosure filings rose 115% in the past year. Now, while all these are factually true, they don't tell the whole story, but they do get people to read the articles and read the information because these headlines are alarming. These headlines will make you think the market is about to crash. So what I want to do here is take the recent foreclosure data that these are pointing to and break that down to make sure that we're all on the same page and understand what these headlines truly mean so that we can communicate that to our clients. Here is a quote from Atom Data. Atom, a leading curator of real estate data nationwide for land and property data, today released its year-end 2022 US foreclosure market report, which shows foreclosure filings, default notices, scheduled auctions, and bank repossessions were reported on 324,237 US properties in 2022, up 115% from 21, but down 34% from 2019 before the pandemic shook up the market. Foreclosure filings in 2022 were also down 89% from a peak of nearly 2.9 million in 2010. So in fact, the media omits the good stuff but selects the most alarming statistic to give you just to get you to read their article. This next graph further shows how the media has no regard for context. Here's a look at US foreclosure activity. If you recall, one of the headlines said foreclosures doubled annually but still below pre-pandemic levels. So this is a look at US properties with foreclosure filings going all the way back to 2005. And what you can see in those dark red bars were years where we had over 1 million foreclosure filings per year across the US. Now look to the right at the present day, and yes, foreclosures doubled, but they doubled from record low foreclosures the previous year. So the simple breakdown is this: if you have a little bit of foreclosures and you double them, you end up with 2 little bits of foreclosures, far from a housing crisis. The media is never going to break it down for you that way. We actually had 1 million fewer foreclosures over the past 3 years than we did even compared to normal years. This is a zoom in on the data from Atom. And if you look at 2017, 18, and 19, we averaged just under 600,000 foreclosure filings across the US. But if you look at the last 3 years, we had a very different scenario. We had the forbearance program, we had higher equity so people could sell their homes to avoid foreclosure. Banks and lenders did everything they could to make sure that we were not going to end up in another foreclosure crisis again. And so over the past 3 years, we had record low foreclosures, such that we're not even anywhere near a normal year when it comes to foreclosure filings. So people think crash when they hear foreclosures rising, but what the data shows contextually is that we're in a very different place today. To beat the horse to death, here is another quote from Atom Data, which says, 18 months after the end of the government's foreclosure moratorium, and with less than 5% of the 8.4 million borrowers who entered the CARES Act forbearance program remaining, foreclosure activity remains significantly lower than it was prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. It seems clear that government and mortgage industry efforts during the pandemic, coupled with a strong economy, have helped prevent millions of unnecessary foreclosures. Now, whether you agree or disagree regarding a strong economy is beside the point. What is the point is that only 5% of 8.4 million people that entered the forbearance program still remain. That's only 420,000, which means that even if they all went into foreclosure, we would still be posting a record low foreclosure number. I also like the context that this quote from Calculated Risk provides. The bottom line is there will be an increase in foreclosures over the next year from record low levels, but there will not be a huge wave of distressed sales as happened following the housing bubble. The distressed sales during the housing bust led to cascading price declines, and that will not happen this time. So it's really important to have this context to understand why this is different and that we're not headed for a crash. The data just doesn't support that. So what do we do in this scenario? How do we help our clients? The most important thing we do is what I spoke of last month, which is control the narrative. We have to be in communication with our clients and explain the context of the market that we're in. That's the difference between having a client that is able to use facts to make a decision based on what's best for them versus a client that has put their plans on hold because they're scared and because there's a lot of confusion out there. The more we can bring the facts, the data, the insights, the more we can control the narrative and the more successful our clients will be. That's a wrap for the February monthly market report. I appreciate you listening in. Forward, subscribe, share. I'll be back next month. But before you go, if you're looking to purchase or refinance or know someone that is and would like a no-cost consultation with me personally, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to analyze if your debt is structured in the most optimal way or if there's room for improvement. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.